When my parents retired, they gave the company to my cousin. Said, "He deserves it more. You'll understand." So I smiled and backed off. 3 months later, I brought someone to dinner. My cousin dropped his wine glass. My mom started crying. It was the kind of dinner where everything looked perfect. At first glance, the table was set with Mom's special occasion china. The wine glasses sparkled under the chandelier. Even the mashed potatoes looked like they'd been shaped with a mold. My dad had shaved. My cousin wore a blazer. And I showed up with a guest, a woman. You'd think I brought home a unicorn. The moment we walked in, my mom's eyes lit up like she'd just witnessed divine intervention. "Well, look at you," she said, air kissing both my cheeks and pretending she hadn't spent the last decade reminding me I was married to my work. My dad gave a short nod, finally brought someone around. I smiled, said nothing. Let the assumptions roll in like fog. Emily, the cousin who always wore pearls and asked why I didn't soften my look, leaned across the table later and whispered, "Is she your girlfriend? She's very elegant." I smiled again. Something like that. They all laughed, sipped their wine, and mentally penciled in a wedding date I never agreed to. My cousin Thomas raised his glass midway through dinner and gave the same speech he always did when he thought the spotlight wasn't bright enough. Something about legacy, sacrifice, carrying on the family name. The company had been in our family for 3 generations, and now it was his turn to lead. He thanked our parents for trusting him, thanked the guests for believing in him, thanked God for giving him the strength to take this on. He did not thank me or even look at me. I poured myself more wine. Next to me, my guest stayed perfectly quiet, polite, observant, the only one at the table who wasn't pretending this wasn't about to become the most memorable meal of their lives. 3 months ago, I found out they'd signed everything over to Thomas. The company, the voting shares, the title, the authority. After 15 years of working side by side with my father, managing operations, running logistics, cleaning up messes Thomas created, they gave him everything and gave me a smile and a vague, "You'll always have a place here, a place like a couch cushion or a spare chair." They sat me down in the living room like they were breaking sad news to a loyal pet. "It's not that you're not capable," my mom had said, reaching for my hand like she was afraid I'd faint. "It's just women like you aren't built for this kind of pressure. We didn't want to burden you. Your cousin," my dad added, "has that leadership instinct. He's decisive," which was one way of saying he guesses and hopes for the best. I asked if they were serious. My dad nodded, like he was signing a peace treaty. My mom just said, "You'll make an excellent support system behind every great man." She trailed off like it was supposed to be comforting. I smiled. Then I went home and started making arrangements. Back at dinner, my mother leaned in and gave me a knowing look. "She's very pretty," she whispered, nodding toward my guest. "Is she in fashion? You know, with your cousin running things now, it's probably a good time to start thinking about next steps for yourself. You could still have a family?" I blinked. "A family?" She beamed. "You've always wanted kids, right?" I hadn't. Not particularly, but apparently what I wanted was irrelevant as usual. Thomas was laughing with 2 of the board members who had shown up for the free steak and photo ops. One of them asked how it felt to be the man of the hour. He grinned. "I've been preparing for this since I was a kid. Uncle always said I had the natural instincts for it. Natural instincts, right? Like the instinct to blame me for missing quarterly goals." After spending the entire quarter playing golf and calling it networking, I took a slow sip of my wine. They were all smiling, comfortable in their delusions, congratulating themselves for making the smart choice. Dad leaned back in his chair, watching Thomas with pride, like he'd personally carved him out of oak and ambition. They had no idea what I brought with me, who I brought with me, but they would. By the time dessert arrived, the air was thick with self-satisfaction. The cake was a 3-tiered monstrosity with the company logo piped in gold icing. My mother actually clapped when they brought it out. "You've really made us proud, Thomas," she said, raising her glass. I tilted my head. Yes. So much pride in this room. Thomas grinned at me like I was finally falling in line. "I know it's not what you expected," he said, the tiniest smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "But you're going to love what we've got planned for you. Marketing is perfect for someone with people's skills." I held his gaze. "Right?" because nothing says vision like slogans and color palettes. He laughed, assuming I was joking. Everyone laughed with him. Everyone except the woman sitting next to me. I glanced around the table at the faces I had known my whole life. My parents smug and satisfied, my cousins soaking in praise like a sponge in gravy, aunts and uncles toasting the next generation, and me, the beautiful daughter, smiling politely, just as expected. If only they knew. If they had any idea who the woman beside me really was. If they knew what I'd found in those documents, what I'd confirmed piece by piece over 3 long months, I'd imagined this night 100 different ways. The silence, the gasps, the outrage, the shattered version of the perfect family portrait they'd spent years trying to frame. They had no idea what was coming, but they were about to find out. And when they did, nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again. When I was 6, I told my parents I wanted to take karate. My dad blinked at me like I just told him I wanted to join the Navy. He glanced at my mom, then laughed. "You mean baseball, daughter?" I didn't, but I ended up in baseball anyway. League uniform, cleats, the whole thing. I hated every game. They said I was being difficult, too sensitive. Eventually, I stopped complaining and just went quiet. When I was 8, my cousin got a Remotech-controlled car. I got a chess set. When I was 10, he got a toolkit. I got a model airplane kit. When I was 12, I told my dad I wanted to run a company like him one day. He looked up from his newspaper and said, "That's sweet, but you'll have your hands full with a real career by then." My mom smiled like it was a compliment. "You'll make a wonderful artist." I remember nodding, smiling back. Then I went to my room, closed the door, and cried until I fell asleep. That was the year I wished. I was more like Thomas, actually wished it, like close my eyes and make it happen kind of wish. I thought maybe then they'd see me, listen to me, be proud of me. Instead, I was the polite one, the helper, the one who cleaned up after the messes, the one who didn't take up too much space. My cousin, he was the natural leader, which in our house meant he was loud, messy, and always right, even when he wasn't. By the time I was a teenager, I had stopped asking for things. No more karate, no more business books, just baseball and design and smiling on cue. They bought Thomas a telescope when he said he liked space once. I got a journal after I won a math competition. A journal because, sensitive girls have feelings, not futures. I kept thinking, maybe if I worked harder, they'd see me. So I worked. I studied. I got top grades. Fixed things quietly when they broke. At 14, I stayed up late organizing my dad's home office because he was stressed. He barely noticed. Thomas got praised for trying after spilling coffee on a spreadsheet. I won a regional debate competition at 15. My mom asked if I'd consider going into teaching. "It's such a nurturing job," she said. Thomas once argued with a waiter about a salad and got called assertive. And still, I told myself maybe I just wasn't enough. Maybe if I smiled more. Maybe if I didn't correct them. Maybe if I played my role better, they'd finally say, "You're good at this." They never did. Things started to shift around my last year of high school. I had a friend named Kyle. Smart, funny, bold. His dad ran a small business. His mom was an engineer. Kyle played soccer, did martial arts, wore whatever he wanted. His parents cheered when he said he wanted to run his own company one day, bought him business cards for Christmas. The first time I went to his house and saw how different it could be. I almost couldn't believe it. I remember walking home that night with this strange, heavy feeling in my chest. Not sadness, not anger, just realization. It wasn't who I was that was holding me back. It was my parents. Their voices had become the ones in my head, the ones telling me to shrink, to stay quiet, to make things easier for everyone else. So I stopped listening. Not all at once, but piece by piece. I joined the school's business club. Secretly at first. Then proudly, I started saving money, researching programs, reading case studies at night. While my parents thought I was planning my future art career, they still didn't see it, or maybe they refused to. At graduation, I gave a speech as valedictorian. My dad told me afterward, "That was really lovely. You should write something for your cousin's next event." In college, I majored in business and joined every leadership program I could find. I interned, learned how things really worked, and when I came home for breaks, I smiled. nodded, and let them keep thinking I was just helping out around the office. They never asked what I really did, never asked what I wanted. My cousin told everyone I was into admin stuff, like I got excited over spreadsheets. I said nothing because deep down I still thought maybe if I just keep showing them, they'll come around. Maybe they'll finally say I'm ready. Maybe they'll finally see me. Then came the day they called a family meeting. We were all seated in the living room, cookies on the table, champagne chilling. The mood was weirdly formal. That's when they told us they were retiring, that the company was ready to be passed down. Thomas, just him. Not a partnership, not shared leadership, not even a courtesy mention of me to him. My father said it like it was the most obvious choice in the world. He's the natural fit. My mom nodded. You've always been so good at helping. You'll still be a part of things, sweetheart. They offered me a bonus check and said I'd always have a place. A place? Like a stool in the break room. I didn't cry this time. I didn't argue. I smiled, said, "Thank you." Walked out of that room like I hadn't just been erased again. But something in me, something quiet and deep, shifted. I didn't feel invisible anymore. I felt done. A few days later, while sorting through some handover files, I found something strange. A folder that didn't belong there. A document that didn't add up. At first, I thought it was just another one of Thomas's mistakes. But the more I looked, the worse it got. I saw things I wasn't meant to see. Things no one had told me. Things that, if true, could change everything. I didn't scream. I didn't storm into anyone's office. I took a picture. Then I made some calls. Let them think I walked away. Let them believe I accepted it because soon they'd realize something they never saw coming. The daughter they pushed aside, she was done waiting to be picked. My cousin was halfway through yet another story about how he rescued the brand's reputation after messing up a client deal when Mark opened her briefcase and pulled out a slim folder quietly. No drama. Just slid it onto the table like it was a menu. I didn't look at it. I didn't have to. My parents were still sipping wine, basking in the glow of their perfect evening. The celebration of legacy, as they called it. Legacy apparently meant handing the family business over to the least responsible person in the room. My mother raised her glass. To Thomas, she said, and to strong leadership. I tapped my glass against hers and smiled. Strong is definitely one word for it. Mark spoke calmly as if she was just clearing her throat. Before dessert, I'd like to share something. Everyone turned. Thomas squinted. Wait, who are you again? Mark offered her hand. Mark Delaney, forensic accountant. That silenced the entire table. My dad blinked. You're a what? Mark stayed polite. I was hired to conduct an internal investigation on financial irregularities within the company. The table went still. Thomas let out a laugh. Tight, forced. This is a joke, right? I finally spoke. Nope, no punchline, unless you count your accounting. Mark opened the folder, passed 2 copies forward, one to my dad, one to my mom. Thomas snatched the third. At first, he flipped through the pages like they were homework he forgot to do. Then he froze. My mom leaned in to read over his shoulder. Her smile vanished. My dad looked at the numbers. His face didn't change at first, but his knuckles turned white where they gripped the tablecloth. Mark's voice was calm. These reports include evidence of unauthorized withdrawals, falsified vendor invoices, and transfers into personal accounts. Some of those funds came directly from the company. Others, she looked at my parents, came from your retirement fund. My mother gasped. Thomas stood up. I didn't steal anything. My dad's voice was sharp. Sit down. Thomas did, like a kid who'd just been sent to the principal's office. You said you stopped gambling, my mom said. Her voice cracked. I did. I mean, mostly. I had everything under control. You took our retirement money? My dad asked, his voice low. It wasn't like that. I was going to fix it. How? I asked. With magic or monopoly money? Thomas turned to me, red-faced. You had no right. You brought this woman to dinner. You couldn't have handled this privately? I could have, I said, but I wanted everyone to see what happens when you give power to someone just because he was born your sister's son. My dad stood up. You ambushed us. Oh, I'm sorry, I said. Was I supposed to wait for you to call on me like I've been doing for the last 20 years? The shouting started. My mom said I'd humiliated the family. My dad said I'd blindsided them on purpose. Thomas tried to act like the victim. Said I'd manipulated them. said I only cared about revenge. I cared about the company, I said, about the clients, the employees, the legacy you're so obsessed with. You should have come to us first, my mom said. And what? I asked. Gotten a pat on the head and a slice of cake? You wouldn't have believed me. You never do. They didn't deny it. That hurt more than I expected. By the time dessert was served, no one touched it. Mark excused herself professionally. No drama. Just walked out the front door and left me sitting there in the mess. My dad turned to the rest of the table. Party's over. Everyone out. Within 5 minutes, the dining room was empty. Plates half full, glasses smudged, cake untouched. The family celebration was dead. Thomas stormed out the back. No apology, no explanation. My mom sat at the table with her face in her hands. My dad stared at the ceiling like it had answers. Me? I sat there quietly watching them finally realize what I'd known all along. They bet on the wrong child. The morning after the dinner, no one said a word. Not a call, not a message, not a knock on my door. Just silence. You'd think after everything someone would reach out, maybe to scream, maybe to cry, maybe to say, "Thank you for stopping the company from falling apart." But no, nothing. 3 days later, I got a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was calm, too calm. The kind of calm that means something's about to explode. We've spoken with the legal team. Your father and I have decided to press charges. She didn't mention Thomas by name. We're doing what needs to be done. I sat there listening with my phone in my lap, heart racing, and felt something strange. Hope. Not because I wanted to see my cousin in jail, but because for once it felt like they were seeing him clearly. The charges didn't last long, 2 weeks to be exact. Then another voicemail. This one was quieter. Dominique, we've changed our minds. He's still family. He's agreed to therapy. He's going to get help. No apology, no acknowledgement, just another quiet reminder that he would always get another chance. They didn't ask for my opinion. They didn't ask for help. What they did do was ask Mark to send them a copy of the full report, the one I'd already read cover to cover. They wanted to know how bad it really was, and the answer? Bad enough. Thomas had drained nearly $500,000, some from company accounts, the rest from the retirement fund he was supposed to help manage. My parents had trusted him with their future. He spent it on online poker and sports bets. And yet somehow I was still the problem. When I bumped into my mother at the grocery store a few days later, she didn't say hi. She just looked at me, then looked away. I stood there for a moment waiting, hoping maybe she'd say something. She didn't, so I kept walking. Thomas went to therapy. At least that's what they said. He got a job somewhere else, junior management at a friend's company, supposed to help him rebuild. He was also ordered to pay back everything, every cent. Not to me, to my parents. They didn't want the company reputation ruined. So they agreed to settle everything quietly, clean up the mess, bury the headlines. I heard through someone on the board that he was lucky, that if I'd pushed harder, he could have done real time. I hadn't pushed, not because I felt sorry for him, but because I was done wasting energy on people who never saw me. Weeks passed. The company carried on, staggered but standing. And then came the next twist. I got a call from my dad. He didn't say hello, just we need to talk about the business. I didn't say much, just waited. Eventually, he said the thing I'd always wanted to hear, but somehow it landed flat. You're right. We should have seen it sooner. You were keeping this place together for years. I didn't thank him. Instead, I asked, so what now? There was a pause. Then he cleared his throat. We're thinking of bringing someone in, a professional CEO, someone from outside. I blinked. Seriously? Because giving it to your daughter would be too complicated? It's not about that, he said. But his silence was my answer. That night, I typed up my resignation. No drama, no explanation, just a short email. After 15 years, I was done. I thought it would hurt more. It didn't. In fact, it felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. I didn't cry. I didn't second guess. I just closed the laptop and poured myself a glass of wine. 2 months later, I started a new job. Higher strategy, better salary, better hours, no glass ceiling hanging over my head like a chandelier waiting to drop. During the interview, the CEO asked why I'd left the family business. I smiled. Family reasons. She laughed. We all have those. My parents didn't call. Thomas definitely didn't, but I didn't need them to. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing their approval. I wasn't waiting to be picked. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just living my life finally without asking permission. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if they'd chosen me first, if they'd believed in me the way they believed in him, if they'd handed me the keys instead of the crumbs. But then I remember I don't need their crown. I built my own. They gave him everything and he burned it down. They gave me nothing and I still rose. Not for revenge, not for praise, just because I could. And if that makes me the villain in their version of the story, so be it. At least I'm finally living mine. 6 months into my new job, I got a text from my cousin Emily, the one with the pearls. "Are you coming to the family reunion? Everyone's asking." I almost laughed. Everyone wasn't asking. My parents certainly weren't. Thomas definitely wasn't. The last I'd heard, he was still paying back what he'd stolen, one small check at a time. I told Emily I had plans. I didn't. But some boundaries are worth keeping. A year passed, then 2. I got promoted twice. My team respected me. My bosses valued me. When I spoke in meetings, people actually listened. It was a strange feeling at first, being taken seriously without having to fight for it. I dated, nothing serious. A few people who saw me clearly from the start, who didn't need me to be anything other than what I was. I made friends who had no connection to my family, no knowledge of our history, people who knew me as I am now, not as the quiet girl who always helped clean up. Then one Tuesday morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello. Is this the daughter of Robert Mercer?" A woman's voice. Professional. Unfamiliar. Yes. I hadn't spoken to my father in over 2 years. "I'm calling from Springfield Memorial. Your father had a heart attack this morning. He's stable, but he's asking for you." I sat there for a long moment, phone against my ear, listening to my own heartbeat. "I'll be there in an hour." The hospital smelled like every hospital, disinfectant and desperation. My mother was sitting outside his room looking smaller than I remembered. She didn't stand when she saw me, just watched me approach with those same judging eyes. "You came," she said. "Not thank you, not I'm glad you're here. Just acknowledgement." "How is he?" "Alive, thanks to the paramedics." She looked down at her hands. "Thomas is on his way." Of course he was. I nodded and pushed the door open. My father looked old, gray, and diminished against the white sheets. Tubes everywhere. The machine beside him beeped steadily. He turned his head when the door closed. "You came," he said. The same words as my mother, but somehow different. "You asked." I stayed by the door. I did. He tried to sit up, winced, settled back. "Doctors say I need to avoid stress." I almost smiled. Ironic. "I'm selling the company," he said. That I hadn't expected. "What?" "Got an offer last month. Good one. From Harding International." I knew the name. Everyone in the industry did. They'd been buying up family businesses for years. "You're really selling?" He nodded. "Should have done it years ago. Before," he waved a hand weakly, "before I gave it to your cousin, and he nearly destroyed it. Before I lost you." "Why are you telling me this?" He looked at me directly for what felt like the first time in my life. "Because you were right all along and I was too proud to see it." I stood there not knowing what to say. After all this time, all the battles, all the disappointment, I'd finally heard the words I'd wanted for so long, and they meant nothing. "Dad?" "The board agreed yesterday. The deal closes next month." He looked away. "Thomas doesn't know yet." I could imagine how that conversation would go. Not well. "And Mom? She'll adjust. She always does." He sighed, suddenly looking even older. "I messed things up, didn't I? With you." It wasn't really a question, so I didn't answer it. "I kept looking at you and seeing someone who wasn't Thomas," I finished. He had the decency to look ashamed. "Someone who wasn't me. You were quiet, thoughtful, precise. I didn't understand that kind of strength." I almost asked if he understood it now, but what was the point? Some wounds don't need to be reopened. "The company is selling for $83 million, he said. "After taxes and payouts, there will be about 60 left. I nodded, not sure where this was going. "I'm splitting it 3 ways. Your mother, Thomas, and you. Equal shares." I felt something shift inside me. Not gratitude, not vindication, just a quiet recognition that some form of justice, however delayed, was possible. "I don't want it," I said. He blinked. "What?" I don't want your money. It's $20 million. I know. He looked genuinely confused. Then why? Because it's still conditional. It's still you deciding what I deserve, and I don't need that anymore. He started to speak, then stopped. The machine beeped steadily between us. Give it to charity, I said. Or keep it, but I've built my own life now. When I left the room, Thomas was coming down the hall. He stopped when he saw me, uncertainty flashing across his face. He looked different, thinner, less cocky. Life without a safety net could do that. How is he asked. Stable and full of surprises. Thomas nodded, glanced at the door. Are you staying? No, I've said what I needed to say. I walked past him, past my mother who had fallen asleep in her chair, past the nurse's station, and out into the bright afternoon light. My phone buzzed, my team checking in, wondering where I was, if everything was okay. I texted back that I'd be in tomorrow, that family stuff had come up. Family stuff. Such a simple phrase for such a complicated thing. 3 days later, my father was released from the hospital. I sent flowers, but didn't visit again. 2 weeks after that, I got an email from him. Formal, stiff, but sincere. He'd respected my decision about the money, but hoped I might reconsider. Not for his sake, he wrote, but because it might give me options. Options. The one thing they'd never wanted me to have. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I sat with the idea for a while. 20 million. Freedom money. The kind of capital that could launch something new. A month later, I met with him and my mother at a restaurant halfway between our homes. Neutral territory. They looked uncomfortable in that way people do when they're trying to be on their best behavior. I've been thinking about your offer, I said after we'd ordered. My father nodded. My mother watched me carefully. I'll accept it with one condition. My father leaned forward. Name it. I don't want it as a gift or an inheritance. I want to use it to start my own company, and I want you both to be silent partners. No input, no opinions, just faith. My mother started to speak, but my father put his hand over hers. Okay, he said simply. And that was how Meridian Consulting was born. My company, my vision, my rules. I hired Mark Delaney as my CFO, the forensic accountant who'd helped expose Thomas. She smiled when I offered her the job. I knew you'd land on your feet, she said. Better than that, I told her. I landed exactly where I was always meant to be. We grew fast, faster than I'd expected. Within 2 years, we had 50 employees and clients in 3 countries. I developed a reputation for integrity, transparency, and results. People sought us out. People trusted us. My parents came to the office opening, stood awkwardly near the food table, trying to look like they belonged. Thomas didn't come. I heard he'd finally paid back what he took and was working at a mid-level management job somewhere in the city. I didn't check up on him. This is impressive, my father said, looking around at the modern open workspace. Thank you, I replied. Not for the approval, but for the acknowledgement. I'm sorry, he said quietly, for not seeing it sooner. I nodded. Some apologies come too late to heal the original wound, but can still help close it. Would you like a tour? I asked. He nodded. As we walked through the office, employees greeted me warmly, many by first name. My team was diverse, energetic, collaborative, everything I'd tried to bring to the family business and had been shut down. You've built something special here, my father said as we finished the tour. I have. I wish, and he started, then shook his head. I know, I said, and I did. He wished he'd seen it sooner, wished he'd believed in me earlier, wished he could go back and make different choices. But that's not how life works. We get one run at each day, each choice. The best we can do is learn and move forward. 5 years later, Meridian was featured in Business Weekly as one of the fastest-growing consulting firms in the country. My father framed the article and hung it in his study. I know because my mother told me during one of our occasional lunches. We weren't close, but we were civil. Sometimes that's enough. Thomas and I ran into each other at a professional conference in Denver. He was representing his company. I was giving the keynote address. He approached me after my speech, looking nervous. That was really good, he said. Thanks, I waited, curious what he really wanted. I've been in therapy, he blurted out, for a while now. Good for you. I'm trying to make amends for everything. I studied him. He seemed sincere, older, more grounded, less like the entitled boy who'd been handed everything and destroyed it. I appreciate that, I said. And I did. Growth is hard. Facing your failures is harder. I know we can't go back to how things were, he said. But maybe we could have coffee sometime, I finished for him. Not as family, just as people. He nodded, relief clear on his face. I'd like that. We did have that coffee 3 months later. It was awkward and stilted, but not hostile. We talked about work, about the industry, about neutral things. We didn't discuss the past. Some bridges can't be rebuilt, but new, smaller ones can be constructed in their place. Last month, my team landed the biggest client in our company's history, a multinational looking to restructure their entire operation. The contract was worth more than the company my father had sold. The company Thomas had nearly bankrupted. The company I'd been told I wasn't built to lead. I didn't call my parents to share the news. Didn't need their validation anymore. But I did allow myself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Not because I'd proven them wrong, though I had, but because I'd proven myself right. Some people spend their whole lives seeking approval from those who will never give it. Others waste years trying to become what someone else wants them to be. I'd done both, but not anymore. Now I just build, create, lead on my own terms. And if you've ever been the overlooked one, the underestimated one, the one they never believed in, maybe that's your real advantage. Because when no one expects you to fly, they never think to clip your wings. Subscribe for more stories like this. And if you've ever been the overlooked one, tell me how you turned it around.